Hello, it's Levi here. Welcome back. But hey, if you're gearing up to listen to this part 2 episode of mine and Darren's Bright review, I sure hope you've listened to part 1. For those who already listened to part 1, let's do a quick recap. Bright, an urban fantasy Netflix film, is set centuries after the demise of a nameless, infamous Dark Lord in modern-day Los Angeles. Here, elves, orcs, humans, and a vast assortment of other magical creatures all now live in a sad facsimile of relative harmony. Wade, a surly LAPD officer, has freshly recovered from a gunshot following a botched protection job by his partner Jacoby, the world's first orc cop. Wade doesn't want Jacoby in his car, as it brings danger and unwanted attention. But if he's going to get his pension, he must endure or die trying. Jacoby, meanwhile, suffers the ire of all untrusting eyes of civilized society. Because it always seems that because orcs used to run with the Dark Lord, then they can't be trusted. On the flip side, orcs see Jacoby donning the badge as a betrayal of his kind. Despite all this, he endures to remain a force of good in the world that does not seem to want him, no matter how hard he tries. Going about their day, Wade and Jacoby feel each other out, testing the foundations of their continued forced partnership. But in the midst of that, Internal Affairs launches an investigation against Jacoby, and asks Wade to try to get a confession out of him regarding the aiding in the escape of the orc that shot Wade. Wade accepts, but reluctantly. Following, the two are called to a disturbance deep in the city, where they come across a crazed, dirty man with a sword. Once the man's arrested, they drive him back to the station, but not before he tells Jacoby in Orcish to, quote, remember the old ways, and the prophecy, and that Ward is blessed. Keeping the cryptic message to himself, Jacoby carries on to the station where they drop the crazy man off. And as he and Wade are called off to handle another disturbance, the Magic Task Force shows up to question the crazy man, invoking the names of two mysterious fringe magic groups, the Inferni and the Shield of Light. Now, on with the show. Oh, God.
Oh, no. I think this is a good transition. Oh, no.
To the actual, to the next portion of it. Because after that, they get a call, like, Ward and Jacoby. I'm trying so hard not to mess up Ward's name. Ward and Jacoby get a call. Something's going on, and they have to go to, like, a rougher part of the city.
Sure. Yeah.
To investigate. Exactly. I think there's like on the way over there, that's Ward's first attempt to get Jacoby to confess. He uses like an analogy with his daughter, like it always feels good when my daughter tells the truth. She tells me how much she loves to tell the truth, and when she lies to me, because it gets it off her chest. But before Jacoby can answer him or can try to really maneuver that conversation, they come across the place. But it is important to note that during that conversation, Jacoby can smell something. Jacoby can kind of he's smelling, and he can kind of tell there's something different going on with Ward. Something's wrong. So his sense, it's first indication that his sense of smell, he can sense when people's emotions change, they give off certain pheromones, and he can smell that out.
Actually, that was introduced even earlier in the film. When he says to Ward, when Jacoby says to Ward, you haven't been sleeping well.
Yeah, that's right.
And he's like, yeah, and I can smell the melatonin on you. Because, yeah. So that was even introduced even earlier. But I agree with your point, exactly. Right? And I think it's funny because when you were saying that, I was like, oh my gosh, this is just like in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Always Sunny, where they have he has a nose for crime.
That's exactly what this is. This is the real fantasy world implications.
Anyway, okay. Ward and Jacoby are responding to some kind of disturbance report. And when they arrive at the site, it just so happens that this building is actually the secret base of the Shield of Light. Whoop de fucking do. And it just so happens that the crazy guy that they picked up earlier today was a member of the Shield of Light. What the fuck is going on here? Why is everything a coincidence? There couldn't have been a better reason. Why didn't they have the crazy guy that they picked up tell them to go here instead? Wouldn't that make sense? Maybe the crazy guy was running from the... go ahead, sorry.
No, that makes perfect sense, because it's kind of like they have this crazy guy in custody. He could tell them... Like, they're interrogating him, so maybe he says, hey, my friends they have something, because as we learn later on what they have, but like, they have something, or they're preparing for something because there's some bad people and they're going to do a bad thing, so we're getting ready to do something. If you want to help, go do that.
Exactly.
Or maybe he doesn't say that at first, and then they interrogate him a bit, and then he says, okay, we're planning to do this, but it's going down now, so you need to get someone over there. There could be a reason to send them over there, but it isn't. It's just like, we have a disturbance in this area, go over there. And they go over there, they get in a shootout. The shootout's kind of funny. There's a few good lines in there. Okay. There's enough humor to keep it, to keep your attention, sort of thing.
Sure.
Yeah, and then you also learn that Jacoby can't shoot. Or he's afraid to shoot, and he's never been really threatened before. And then they go in, Jacoby can smell death in the room, and they see that a bunch of people have been killed, incinerated, and just killed in weird ways. Someone's embedded into the wall, and still kind of alive. And they find a magic wand. And this is where the movie really starts to pick up, is when they find that.
This is actually where I felt the movie was starting to really drag.
No, that's where the stuff is supposed to start to escalate. They found the thing. They found the MacGuffin. Here's where it all is supposed to pop off. And it does kind of pop off. It does kind of pop off.
Right. So, and then another thing to note is they meet the girl, Tika.
I have a few things to say about Tika.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Anything else I want to say real quickly? The only thing I want to say is I think that the whole crazy guy scene, it should have just been done like... It should have been done like this. The Inferni attack the Shield of Light base. The crazy guy, we'll call him Joe. Joe escapes the raid of the Inferni. The Inferni raid the Shield of Light base and start killing people and start attacking. Joe escapes with his, just barely, right? He's injured and he's all dirty and he's got his hair and he's got no shirt and all that.
He got a bloody sword because he used it.
Yeah, and he was using a sword to fight off the bad guys and stuff like that. And then he crashes into an unsuspecting house. Even better. He remembers how there's an orc in the police force, because this is part of the news, right? This is the first orc ever to be hired in the police force.
Ooh,
and he remembers the prophecy about an orc with an unnatural background or something like that. I don't know. Maybe there's a prophecy that says like an orc.
Yeah, like this is an orc, and there's. I remember in the beginning there was that Joe Rogan interview with that orc leader. He goes basically said like, that piece of shit, that unblooded piece of shit is dead to us, that sort of thing. So maybe he could have saw that and think like, an unblooded orc, that's got to be our guy. That's got to be the prophecy guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so then he runs into the police station. They put him in the interrogation room, and the crazy guy's sitting there and he's saying, I won't talk to anybody except the orc. I won't talk to anybody except the orc. I'm not going to talk to anybody except... And then they're like, fine, okay, they bring in the orc. Then they bring in orc, Jacoby, and they bring in Ward. And Ward and Jacoby are sitting there and like, what do you want with us? Why did you call us in? And then he brings them in real close and is like, I got to tell you about the prophecy. You're the chosen one. Remember the old traditions. And then he tells them the whole prophecy and says, you're the one that you're with is blessed. And then he says, you got to go to this place. Get the girl, get the wand, whatever. Or he doesn't even have to say that. Just say, go to this place. That would have been so much better. That right there just makes so much more sense. And we came out with that in like 2 minutes.
Yeah, and then he could have just been like, he goes, I barely made out with my life. I don't know what happened. Because Tika, you learn later on, Tika uses the wand to kill her attackers there.
Yeah.
And then like, you can just, he frantically escapes. He's disoriented. He's beat the hell up. it gives him a reason to wander out like, even if you want to stick with him wandering out in public and being crazy, he can still wander out into the public and be like swinging like, they're back, they're here, I need help, or like the Dark Lord's coming, or like and then the cops pick him up and the whole thing proceeds as usual. There's a way to fully do that, and now everyone has a reason to go there, just like you said. And then then now we're still in the same spot right now, just with more intrigue, more sense of urgency, and more investment.
Exactly.
You know?
It's lazy writing. It's lazy. And okay, so
but now we're there. We're there, and they've picked up the wand. Well,
yeah.
they have the wand, and it's stated that. Oh, no, wait. They haven't picked up the wand yet. My mistake. They're in the room, and they've just found Tika.
I think so. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
Now. So
because Tika drops
Tika. Yeah, exactly.
They get her outside, and then as they're chasing her outside, she uses the wand, and they threaten her with guns, and she drops it, and that's when they freak out. Oh shit, that's a wand right there. And that's when and then their acting is supposed to show you like, oh, this shit's really dangerous. And then Tika also, it's very important to state that Tika is an elf. That's a bright, specifically. They're like, oh, you're a bright? And like, brights haven't been seen in God knows how long. And also, Tika doesn't speak any English. She only speaks in her elven, at this moment, she only speaks in her elven tongue.
Yeah. Exactly. Also, she's acting very strangely. She acts like, kind of like a child. I'm not sure how old Tika is in the film, but it makes her seem like she's acting like she's an 8-year-old or something, like a really scared 8-year-old.
A very scared child.
Yeah, but she looks like she's a 20-year-old. She looks like she's 20. Like, that's just the thing. It's not really a big point, but it's just something that I noticed anyway.
She's really kind of 4. She's just very developed.
Yeah.
It's part of the world building. Elves just have different chemistry.
Of course. Great. Got it. Thank you for explaining that to me.
You're welcome. A keen eye catches these things, you know.
Yeah. That's why.
I am a seasoned man. I'm 29.
Seasoned. I prefer cumin and paprika, and just a touch of salt. So anyway, the next thing that happens is Ward calls over backup, and I think this is the next big decision-making point in the film. The backup shows up, and it's some cops that we've seen before. It's the sergeant that said, "Everyone hates you, Ward." That's the sergeant. It's asshole cop number 7, who has the mustache and is always getting in Ward's face about how he's with an orc and stuff like that. And it's 2 other random cops that I don't even think we get to see their faces.
The chief's also there.
Oh, is
or Sarge, whatever it is. The Asian
the Sarge.
Sarge.
The sergeant. The girl, I mentioned Sarge.
Yeah.
The one that said that everyone hates you, so that's why no one wants to ride with you.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So it turns out that those cops have gone dirty. We got some dirty cops in the room, and they want to frame Jacoby as an aggressor, and they want to kill Jacoby and steal the wand and take it and do whatever with the wand.
Make their dicks bigger.
Yeah, or $1 million or $2 million. He just keeps throwing numbers out there.
Yeah.
Or $5 million. Oh, keep saying bigger numbers.
He has a very small imagination for what you can do with magic.
Well, he doesn't even have a real name. I don't even think this character has a name in the movie. It's just asshole cop.
They say it once, but like it's like when he's getting ready. Later on, when he gets ready to shoot them. But yeah, it's very. You might as well not say it at all. But that's also the scene where they also define or not define what magic is. He goes like, you know what that is? That's whatever you want it to be. And then they go on and say some of the things you could potentially do with it, and that you can't hold it. But the rules around what this wand can and can't do are very vague. You don't know what the limits of it are. You just know that it's dangerous or it can do cool things for you.
Yeah,
and I think for a lot of people, like I don't mind that vagueness, but I think for a lot of people that upsets a lot of people who want more specific parameters around, like
even a magic system of some kind of drawback to using it properly or something like that. You know, something, anything.
So I think the only reason why I would have a complaint with the way that it's set up now, in terms of the magic rules or the magic system, is that we see kind of contradicting, not necessarily contradicting, but it just seems very inconsistent internally within this world. And that comes in at the ending. It doesn't really come into play right now, but it comes into play in the ending. So we can talk about that once we get to the ending. So let's get back to the scene. The cops want to frame Jacoby. They even threaten Ward. They're saying, like, if you're not with us, we're going to kill you. We're going to kill you just like we're going to kill Jacoby, and then we're going to take the wand. So you don't really have a choice. Either you live and you go with us, or you die with Jacoby. And it turns out that they never intended to let Ward live anyway. They were going to kill him anyway. So now we're faced with a choice for Ward. Ward has to either betray Jacoby or fight back against the cops, the dirty cops, right? Ward decides to stay with Jacoby. Oh, actually, no. Before we get to that, Ward confronts Jacoby and says, "Tell me what really happened when the shooter showed up, when the shooter was there. Tell me what happened." He wants to know the truth, and he's getting all serious, and he pulls out his gun. And this is actually a big point of tension in the film, because it's actually, there's some stakes here. Ward is pointing a gun right into Jacoby's face, and he's saying, "Tell me what happened. Tell me the truth. I need to know right now." And that's when Jacoby actually finally tells the truth, and he says, "I let the guy go. But I didn't let the real guy go. I lost the real guy. I let some kid go." And so he's telling him the whole story about how he's chasing the shooter in the crowd. He loses the shooter in the crowd, and he goes down this alley, and he catches this person, this orc. He thinks it's the shooter, but it turns out it's just a kid, just some random kid, and he's just tagging. He's just spray painting. He's just doing some graffiti. And so then he realizes, and then he tells Ward, "And I knew that the cops are on their way. They're looking for an orc.
Who shot a cop.
Who shot a cop, exactly. And this kid is not going to make it out alive if they catch him. And so I helped him. I gave him boost up to that fire escape, so that way he could scale the building and run off into the rooftops. And I basically saved his life, because I knew that if I didn't save his life right there, he would have been killed by the cops." And I thought, okay, you know what? We have some interesting motivations. He had to make a choice. He had to make a difficult choice about what does he value. Does he value like his reputation as a cop, or does he value the lives of another orc, and maybe the lives of all people? But it's just an orc, so
it just happens to be an orc.
Yeah, we can't really extrapolate as to whether or not he cares about all people, but he cares about orcs at least, right? I think it would have been even more interesting if it was like an elf or something. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, like if an elf had shot Ward, that'd be kind of interesting. Anyway, so that's the scene, and that's the truth. That's what Jacoby is saying. That's the truth. Ward has to think it over, and he believes him. He believes Jacoby, and he turns around and he shoots the 4 cops dead.
Kills 3 of them.
3 of them are dead.
3 of them. One's wounded.
Yeah, one is mortally or critically injured. And it's like this whole big scene where everything's in slow motion. There's some very like slow music playing, and I think the music's talking about like, "I don't want to die, fuck you," something like that.
I used to know the lyrics of that song. I do because I've watched this movie enough times. But now all I can think of is to that scene. "I don't want to die, fuck you." I like that song, man. It's kind of like "We'll fuck you up" or something like that. But I like your version better. "I don't want to die, fuck you."
Well, that's the general gist of the song that I took away from it, right?
Yeah.
And there's even like this whole like Matrix 360 camera pan around the character in slow motion.
Yeah, it's a big scene. It's a
a big decision point, and I think if anything, this film, if there are 2 redeeming scenes in this film that actually make it worth watching, it's that scene and the scene in the bathroom.
I would say if there were a cool surprise scene was we'll get to it later, but like the car crashing scene when it crashes into the invisible wall.
I know what you're saying. Yeah. I don't know if that's worth. Okay, it's an interesting scene, I guess, but not
for the fantasy elements, I will say.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's some. That's just purely of like a spectacle in terms of like visual effects.
Thematically, no. Thematically,
yeah, it doesn't.
No, but,
you could put that in any movie, honestly.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't know if I'd want to see that in like a Mrs. Doubtfire kind of movie, but whatever.
I do. The whole movie, Mrs. Doubtfire 3 in Invisible Walls. That's the whole movie.
Okay, so.
Oh, I guess too far off track though. Coming back.
Ward shoots the cops.
Jacoby freaks out.
Decides to side with Jacoby, and Jacoby is kind of flabbergasted. He's kind of completely shocked at what had just transpired. And he pulls out his gun. He's saying, "What the fuck?" Another thing I'll say about this movie is there is a lot of machismo posturing in this film. I feel like after this point in the first maybe 30 or 20 or 30 minutes, it's kind of like trying to do the world building. And we've already talked extensively about that.
Yeah.
But the next hour of the film, once we get to this point and onward, the next hour, it's a lot of machismo posturing where people are saying, "Hey man, hey Holmes, you don't want to get fucked up, do you? I'm the baddest there is." And then the other guy is saying, "Shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up." And then the other guy is saying, "I'm not going to shut the fuck up, you shut the fuck up." That's what the conversations turn into for the rest of the movie, for most of the movie.
Yeah, most of the conversations are that. To be fair though, I will say that is very prominent in like, especially in gang Latin culture.
Okay.
Like, I'm not saying that that's all what it is, but there's a big part of like gang Latin culture, and even just like in normal households where like it's just a lot of like the machismo thing is like it has like a lot of bad, rightfully so, a lot of bad stigma to it, because it is a lot of I'm a bigger, better man than you, fuck you. And then like, "Hey Holmes," and like, you know, that sort of like the whole stereotypical talk. Like people still do that a lot. They shouldn't, but that does happen.
Regardless of whether or not people do that, the film does it too much. Like I get it if people do that and they want to incorporate some of that into the film. But I remember just sitting there watching these two guys. Like there's a scene where Rodriguez and Ward calls Rodriguez in a time of need, and Rodriguez shows up, and they're just yelling at each other for like 2 minutes, and nothing happens. You're not gaining any information. You're not advancing the plot. You're just watching them yell at each other, and then the only reason they stop is because Jacoby shows up, says, "Yo, what the fuck? Shut up." Why did that have to happen? That's 2 minutes of screen time that's just wasted. It's just so stupid. I hate that. And then I get it. Like, if people talk like that in real life, sure.
I wish you could have seen your face in that moment. That was like the moment where, like, it looked as though in your brain, like, something triggered, like, why am I here? Like, what am I doing?
Why am I watching this film? Exactly.
That was the moment when Rodriguez and Will Smith and Ward are just yelling at each other.
Like, none of that needed to happen. I understand that there's tension between them, but it doesn't add to the tension.
We'll get there. We're in a different scene right now, so like.
But it also happens in this scene because immediately after they pick up the wand, they're confronted by Mexican gang.
Poison.
Oh, Poison? Is it Poison?
His name is Poison, the wheelchair guy.
Oh, I thought the name of the gang was Poison. Do you know the name of the gang?
I don't know
the
name.
He's a gang leader.
Poison's the gang leader. You can assume it's the Kings assuming that they don't, that they're just ripping it one for one from the real world. It's most likely the Kings or the Bloods. I don't see the Bloods colors there, nor do I see the Kings colors either.
None of the I don't think the movie would actually go as far as to actually represent the clans directly like that. That's a little too touchy.
But they didn't give them any defining markers, really. It was just like,
well, I think that's the point.
Yeah, just dress them in street clothes that people might assume are thuggish. But yeah, he rolls up. He's in a wheelchair. He wants the wand because he's in a wheelchair and he wants to fix that.
Yeah.
The movie never addresses how they will do that, considering that the movie's already established that non-brights can't pick up wands, or at least it will in a bit. But even after that's figured out by a lot of people still want to grab the wand, and I don't really know why. But yeah, he shows up. He wants the wand. He threatens them, but they don't want to kill the cops per se. They like to avoid that if they could. They hop in the car and they drive away, and you have your big chase scene.
Well, if they don't want to kill him, they're doing a really bad job, because
at first they
try to kill him.
At first they're kind of like, "Oh, you just guys killed 4 cops, you know, like no one wants to know that. You know, why don't you give us the wand?" Like, no, there's no wand. He goes, "You sure? I'll give you a chance to give it to us." And they get in the cars, and then they leave, and they drive away.
And the shooting and all that, and then you have your big scene, your big scene where the car hits the invisible wall as they get away.
Before that happens, though, where that goes away, you do have 2 things I think are important. One is Tika keeps trying to talk to Jacoby, trying to say stuff about like the Inferni are coming. And because Jacoby's the only one who can speak any little bit of Elvish.
No, she was speaking in Orcish. No, you're right. It wasn't Elvish.
She speaks Elvish, right. and Jacoby
knows. He took it in high school.
Yeah, he knows enough to understand enough of it, but she's like constantly freaking out about that. And then also, just a small highlight, I do enjoy the small joke of like Will Smith's trying to reload a shotgun. He drops all the bullets, and in a very tense moment, Jacoby just says, "Butterfingers." It's a really dumb joke, but I liked it.
I didn't like that. I was just like, okay, great.
I don't think I liked it because of the joke itself, because of just how poor it was. But it was still funny. Regardless, it was funny, so it accomplished its job. And then they crash into the wall. They crash into the wall, and that leads them to, and then they're going to have a discussion about what's going on in their next part. But before that, it cuts to a scene of the actual bad guys. The Inferni show up.
Yeah, that's true. The Inferni show up. They're just white people. No, actually they're not. Only the leader is white, as far as I can tell. One of them is like an Asian girl, and the other one looks kind of like he's like... I don't know what he looks like. He looks
I
like
don't
a
know.
vampire.
He does kind of... He kind of is
like
just
Nosferatu if he was...
He kind of is just like a
went to the gym.
vampire, like a modern day vampire from a modern day action flick, like Underworld or something like that.
Exactly. They're just underworld characters. That's what they are.
Yeah, but they show...
That's a good action flick. I would highly recommend Underworld over Bright.
Yeah, it is. I would say, watch the Underworld films. They're pretty solid. But they show up there. They show up to the crime scene, the Shield of Light place. They see everything. They find the girl that's magically meshed into the wall, and they slit her throat and grant her a swift death so she can rest. And then
I don't know about that. I think it. So is that your interpretation of it? That they granted her a swift death?
My interpretation was she's been there for a while and she's alive, but she's going to die. So they just kill her because they can't fix it because they don't have the wand.
Okay. So my interpretation was that
they
killed her because she failed. Because it didn't seem like they were doing it out of compassion. They seemed like they were doing it because they were angry.
Well, I think either way, I don't think there's enough evidence to support either. Personally, so I think you could go with either of those, and you'd be just as correct.
Yeah.
But I'm going to assume because she does have a little more sympathy towards Tika later, but they're related, they're siblings. That's a big reveal that doesn't go anywhere either. So I would assume that there's a little more compassion there, but I could be wrong. But anyways, they also find the wounded cop. They talk to him. They get some more information out of him. I don't remember what the information is because I think it's inconsequential. No, they don't get... She
just kills him.
Yeah, she just kills him, and then they interrogate a Mexican family, like a neighbor family next door, kill everyone, and they get the story, and then then they start chasing.
Another coincidence where this Mexican family just happens to see everything that happened. I mean, they are literally living next door to what's happening, so yeah, it makes sense that they kind of saw it. But it's also kind of a coincidence that they just so happened to pick that house. It's just like they saw the windows, the curtains move. And it's like, oh, okay, we'll go to this house and we'll see what happened.
Yeah, I also don't know what information they could give them that'll lead them to find Jacoby or Ward or
Nothing.
Poison and his gang. But
Nothing.
whatever. They give them information and then they go track them down.
Yeah, and then another thing that's important about that is that they kill a baby, and so it's really showing how evil they are. Oh
They're
man, they kill babies. Oh no, they're evil.
Yeah, they're very
evil bad
evil.
guys. All right, so let's see. I think one more thing to talk about is I think right after this is when they go to the rave, to the party.
Yeah, the orc rave party.
Yeah, so there's an orc rave party. Jacoby and Ward and the elf girl are trying to escape with the wand. It turns out that the wand has like some kind of defense mechanism where the wand cannot get it cannot get a certain distance away from its owner. Once it gets to that distance, it will create like a invisible wall that will force it to stop going any further. And that's why the car crashed, right? That's why the car crashed. So they have to stay within a certain distance. So what happens is they're trying to escape, they're trying to figure out their next step, and they just happen to end up at this party that's run by the orc,
like the main orc guy in Los Angeles,
the orc leader of LA. And he just so happens to be the orc leader of LA, and he just so happens to be the owner and proprietor of this establishment that's running this party. And so what happens is Ward and Jacoby are trying to slither their way through the rave. They're kind of getting disoriented because the rave is a mosh pit. It's this big mosh pit, and everyone's going crazy, and they're getting bumped around. And then Poison and his gang show up, and they start blasting. And they start creating a big disturbance, and the fight escalates. They're shooting people. A few orcs die.
Tika flips off the wall for no reason.
Yeah, because that's a thing that elves like to do. Sure.
It's literally like, Tika, where are you? And they see Tika, get over here, and she just flips off the wall. And then
it's a very 90s like Power Rangers thing to do.
It is. The footage is just rewound in slow motion. That's all it is, and sped up. I mean,
yeah.
But yeah, they get there. The chase continues out the club. Orcs have died. Some humans have died in there. They drop the wand. They fight, and then a Mexican gang member tries to pick up the wand for the first time, and he explodes, and the explosion just obliterates him and like 2 or 3 other gang members into dust.
Yeah. So it kind of is acting as like a little mini bomb where anyone in the direct vicinity of the wand just gets poofed into nothing. And that's kind of like showing like what will happen if you touch it and you're not a bright. So it really does come into the question now of how does anyone know if they're bright? Because it doesn't seem like there's any effective way of telling if you're a bright other than touching the thing.
Yeah, of like just take like, you feeling lucky, man? You think you're bright?
So how are you ever supposed to know?
That's something we missed. That's something very important we missed. Way back in the interrogation scene, they mention that most brights are elves.
Yeah.
But there are human brights, but they're extremely rare.
But even then, how are you supposed to know? There's no way to tell.
I'm just simply stating that as like something we missed. Like that's information I think that is prevalent to later.
Oh, and then one thing that also about that is he says in that line, he says, "Why do you think elves run the world? Like, why do you think the elves are in charge? Most elves are brights," as if there's some kind of correlation there or some kind of causation. Like, if you're more likely to be a bright, then you're obviously going to rule the world. Okay, got it. Great.
Got it.
But, like, how are you supposed to know if you're a bright? You can't know unless you touch the thing. If you are one, you live. If you're not, you die. I'm never going to touch that thing for the off chance that I'll be one. Who would be stupid enough to do that?
That is one thing that kind of gets me is like, I don't mind that. Like, that's cool.
you touch it, and you can't touch a wand if you're not a bright unless you have like some sort of protective gear. Otherwise, it will kill you. It will kill
It's
you.
not
And
even protective gear. As long as you just touch it with like a piece of cloth.
Yeah. At first, it's like they have a special glove they have to use to pick it up and put it. And even then, they keep it when like earlier on when the cop picks it up with the special glove, he says he feels cold and it tingles. But then, like, everyone just picks it up with, like, napkins and bags. And
It's almost like it's a dirty object and no one wants to touch it, like, directly.
It's like a stick with some poop on it or something. It's like nothing. That's all it is.
Because even Tika, like, she has, like, really long sleeves. And it almost... At first, I thought she wasn't a bright because she kept trying to touch it with, like, her sleeves. And so I thought, like, why is she... I was very confused as to that.
Yeah, I think she's trying to hide in her sleeve most of the time, but yeah, the people explode. They pick it up. They reaffirm that this is dangerous. And they can't touch it, otherwise they'll explode. And then they continue to run off. The members are still the gang members are still chasing them, and then so they change clothes. They're now in street clothes, and eventually they go into a titty bar to hide.
Yeah.
And I think it's very small, but this is also a point where you see a slight more development on Will Smith's character, on Ward. Because he goes in there, and the first thing he does is he tells a bunch of people that he knows to leave. Like innocent citizens. He tells them to leave, because it's gonna get dangerous in there real soon. Which I think does show that Will Smith does have some connections in the community. He knows some people that are in there, and that he also cares if they're gonna live or die. So he has them leave. So
okay. I didn't make that connection. So when that happened, I was actually wondering, why are these people listening to him? If someone showed up at a club and told me, get the fuck out, I'd just be like, who the fuck are you? Why would I leave? Now it makes sense because he's like a beat cop, he knows the streets.
Yeah, and it goes back to what he said earlier, like, I don't want to ruin my street cred.
Okay.
So it did pay off later. It doesn't make that scene much better.
Oh, but that's the payoff, huh?
Yeah, I'm saying... I didn't say it made that scene better. That did make the scene better, but I'm saying that is the payoff you get of that line.
It was worth it, baby. It was worth it.
I'm saying they paid it off. There's a lot of other things. There's a lot of bigger things they didn't pay off.
They didn't even make it clear, though. If it had been more like when he goes up to the guy and says, like, you got to get the fuck out of here. It's like, oh, Ward. Okay. Well, like, they didn't even show, like, any of that. It's just like a guy stands up and walks out. Don't even see his face.
I want it to be like, hey, you need to leave. Oh, Ward, cop with street cred. Yeah, I'll get out of here.
Honestly,
good thing you didn't snitch on anybody and ruin your street cred.
Honestly, that level of like exposition is desperately needed in this film.
Oh, Ward, cop with street cred, he's here.
Oh, prophecy that states that unblooded orc will save us from the Dark Lord. Ah, yes, thank you for showing up. Like, that isn't desperately needed. I need to know these
prophecy
things.
Orc. Oh shit, is that Ward, the blessed human?
As per prophecy?
As per prophecy. Oh, dude, that's the guy that the dirty guy with the sword was talking about. That's him.
Yeah, exactly. And who suddenly isn't crazy anymore, and was a member of the Shield of Light. Great.
All right, we should leave. We'll leave. We'll leave, Ward. Bye.
Thanks, Ward. Thanks for being an upstanding officer and looking out for us little people in the titty bar.
An upstanding officer with street cred.
Who didn't snitch out his partner. And whose priorities are clear. Pension, family, partner.
So it's a very, very short list, very easy to follow. All right, so they're in the bar. They're in the titty bar.
And this is when Poison shows up and he says, hey, Holmes, I need the one to save my body because I can't make love to my woman and I can't walk. And
I pee in a bag and all this shit.
And he also has like his poop excrement like being pulled out into peed in the bag and all that. But,
Yeah.
Now
here's part where I have a little bit of a problem. I just wanted to understand is like, after that Ward and Jacoby have killed many of his gang members, he still gives them a chance to turn the wand in. He still says, "Give me the wand, and I'll still let you go," or I will burn this whole place to the ground. And I will pick the wand out of the ashes. He says something to that effect, and that whole thing doesn't make much sense to me from a logic standpoint, because assuming that he was telling the truth, Ward still says he'll still kill us if we give him the wand. And I would assume that guy would realize that he's been trying to kill them all night. So why not just like instead of like waiting to attack them, just attack them? The movie just moves a little bit faster. But then you don't get the big line of "we're gonna titty bar gunfight die." That's probably the only reason for that.
No,
and
I think. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, then you also get Jacoby also saying that he's not getting that wand, not over my only over my dead body. So you kind of see that Jacoby is the stalwart hero. He's going to fight this to the end to protect people.
I think the reason why so you're trying to approach it from a character motivation perspective, and I think that's admirable, because that's what a good writer should do, right?
Thank you. Did Darren just call me a good writer?
No. I'm saying that's what a good writer should do.
Damn it. All right. I'll never be as good as Ward cop a street cred at this rate.
But I think the real reason why this scene occurs, why this kind of pause in the action occurs, is because they need a moment for the bad guys, the Inferni, to show up and to actually do stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the real reason. They need to put up this situation. They need to create some kind of artificial situation where they can have the bad guys actually being... we've established that they're bad because they killed a baby, right? And
But they're not threatening yet.
Yeah, they're not necessarily threatening. They're just imposing bad guys who just have lots of leather. They just wear lots of leather, and they're angry. They look angry. But we need to see them actually in action. And so this is how it comes into play. We stall the action for a little bit, and then we have the action. We have that scene interrupted by the Inferni. They show up and they just decimate the entire organization. They kill Poison and his whole gang. So that's what happens. They show up and they kill Poison and the whole gang. They needed to fit in somewhere the bad guys doing something cool, because in no other scene in this movie do the bad guys do anything cool. Oh, I guess when they attack him at the supermarket, or I don't know, the convenience store, gas station.
The gas station.
When they attack on the gas station, they don't really do anything cool, but they are doing action things. But this is the chance for the bad guys to actually show off how this is the show of force, right? This is the moment that we get to have the payoff of what are the bad guys really capable of. This is the moment. And so that's why they stall the action. That's my opinion.
And they kick some ass. They do. They kill some people some pretty
it's actually pretty impressive how easy it is for them to do this, to kill off like an entire group of like 20 gang members armed to the teeth with guns.
Which I will say is, it does make it a little confusing later when...
Exactly.
We'll get there. I just wanted to mention that.
This is one of the big problems I have with the film, because we see how easy it is for them to kill 20 plus gang members armed with like automatic weapons.
They literally run through them like they're paper. Like it's like nothing.
One of them shoots the guy without even looking. Literally shoots him from across the room while she's stabbing another guy, looking in a different direction, shoots him, and with perfect accuracy, like right through the dome, right in the head, and the guy just drops. And I'm like, oh crap, okay, these guys actually like know how to kill people. Okay, cool. Somehow, Ward and Jacoby managed to escape in this onslaught, in this, I guess it's more of a massacre, And as they're running out of the building, they're being pursued by the leader, Layla, I don't know her name. Lila, exactly. Lila.
And Lila apparently is this... I know they barely mentioned, but the magic feds, the magic police, whatever they are.
Yeah.
The main, there's two of them. The one that's an elf, he's been chasing Lila for like 10 years.
Yeah,
and
I remember
that's said early on, so that's supposed to also establish like, okay, she's a big deal. She is the big deal. She's your big bad.
Yeah, exactly. I do remember that scene. You're right. And so they're being chased by Lila out of the door of this titty club, and just at that moment, I think some feds or some cops show up.
And she kills all of them.
She kills all of them, but that
herself.
manages to... Yeah, exactly. I think like 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah,
full
so
SWAT.
It's like a lot.
Yeah, full SWAT with shotguns and assault rifles.
Armor,
everything.
helmets, yeah.
Exactly. Just massacres them. Easy. Doesn't even break a sweat. And she even has the cool pose at the end where she's like, kneeling, so half kneeling, half... You know what I mean?
I will also say that Naomi Rapace, I actually like her a lot as an actress, and I think the little that she does in this movie, I think she does it very well.
Sure. I mean, I have no complaints about any of the acting in the film. I do think some of the scenes that she has with Tika, especially at the end, are just a bit weird.
Yeah,
but I don't necessarily...
it's not a fault of her. That's a fault of like the direction of the script and all that.
Yeah, it's kind of like how, Jar Jar was well acted, but what he does is
I wouldn't say those two equate.
Okay. But anyway, somehow Jacoby and Ward managed to escape. And
this is the gas station.
Yes. Now they're at the gas station and we come to the bathroom scene. Right, and this is, I think, the next big scene in the film that is consequential, that is big, I guess. So, in this scene, we're starting to have a bit of a heart-to-heart. It's a break from the action, and we have Jacoby talking to Ward, and they're starting to discuss a little bit more about here's what Ward does. Ward asks him, why didn't you just tell me the truth in the first place, right? I'm your partner. You gotta trust me. You gotta just tell me. You should have just told me that you couldn't find the shooter and that you found this random kid and you let him go. And then Jacoby gets back at him and says, "So I'm supposed to trust you when you don't trust me, right?" And that's a big moment for them because they realize that there was never any level of trust between them. And now they're starting to actually build that. And it's a little bit sad that it has to come at such a late point in their relationship, but whatever.
Yeah.
Right? So this is actually a building moment for them. And what happens is, this is when you get a little bit of that lip service about how... Okay, so here's what happens. Ward talks about... Jacoby. Jacoby talks about a little bit about his past and his upbringing, saying, why does he want to be a cop? He wanted to be a cop because he wanted to save people. Right, he wanted to help people, stuff like that. Kind of your typical hero reasons for doing good, altruistic type of reasons, right? And that's when Ward says, "Yeah, I used to be like you, but now I got to live in the real world, and now I'm an asshole," stuff like that. And so there's a couple of things that stand out to me in this scene. One is that I feel like there's a big disparity between what Ward says and what he does. In the same way that Ward used to talk about how in the beginning of the film, we talked about the fairy and how he killed the fairy. Ward was saying oh yeah, you got to respect all the races. We're all just trying to live together. And then in the very next scene, he goes ahead and executes a fairy brutally in public and with no remorse. Even making a joke about how fairy lives don't matter, right? Yeah. And now we have another scene where Ward is talking about how he used to do things for the right reasons and he used to be doing things for good and how he used to be like Jacoby. But just a few scenes ago, we saw him shooting cops that were supposedly his friends, if at least his co-workers, but he just murders them. And I understand that he was under duress.
with reason, but yes, he does. He doesn't just injure them, he kills them.
But the way that he kills them is stark, because it's so easy for him. It doesn't look like he's really that upset. He doesn't even mention it. Everyone else mentions it to him. you just killed 4 cops. He never brings it up.
And he doesn't. Actually, it's true. He doesn't bat. I never give that much thought. He doesn't. Like
he doesn't care. I don't think he cares that he killed those people, right? And he never really talks about his family, other than that one time at the police station where the internal affairs people were saying, "Oh, you have a hard time raising your family because you're poor," stuff like that. And he says, "If you ever bring up my family,"
and that comes up also a little bit when those other cops try to say, "Yeah, betray Jacoby because think of your family. Think of what think of what we could do with this wand for your family."
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, that's true.
But like in this conversation here, that you would think that would come up a bit more. But it doesn't.
Exactly. Like, he doesn't really bring up his family. He never brings up anything about, like, if something is important to you, you usually say it, and your actions reflect that, right? If eating ice cream is important to me, I will tell you I like ice cream, and then I'll eat ice cream. That's pretty standard. That makes sense.
That's a very straightforward, understandable analogy. Good job.
Exactly. If Ward cares about his family, he will say that, and then he will do things that will help his family. He sometimes does things to help his family, but it's very indirectly helping his family. It's like he wants to keep his street cred. That will help him keep his job, and that will help him have a pension for his family. That's true. It does help his family in a very third-degree kind of way.
Yeah.
And then he never really says that he loves his family or that he cares about his family, but he just says, "If you threaten me again, or you threaten my family again, I'm gonna kill you." And that's kind of like, you're going 1 degree away and then coming back to it. He's never saying exactly what he cares about. The only time he says what he cares about is when he says, "My worst nightmare is losing my pension." That is the thing that is his worst nightmare. He should have said, "My worst nightmare is you and me and our daughter alone in the slums with no food to eat, scrounging for money." He could have said it like that. That has more impact and makes more sense than him saying, "My worst nightmare is losing the pension, fucking up the pension." You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and he never communicates this to Jacoby either. Because you could have just left the line as is, like his worst fear is losing the pension. But then to Jacoby, he could say to him, like, he doesn't have to say this bluntly, but he could basically say to him, "Hey, look, man, I don't like you in my car, but it's mostly just because I'm just afraid of losing this job. And if I lose this job, I can't feed my family. Or I'm laying my family down, or something like that. Something as basic as that, and then that communicates to Jacoby, like, why he's so hard on him and why he's always so pissed at him, and then that creates growth between the two characters.
Exactly. Or even further, you could even say, "I don't like you in my car because I am now a target for all orcs or for all people, or whatever. I'm now a target, and if I get killed, who's going to take care of my family?"
Yeah, and he's a target now by orcs and by humans.
Exactly, right? He could say that.
And then from that point, and this will kind of go into another point I want to make, but then a counterpoint that Jacoby can make easily after that is he can say, he could just say, yeah, welcome to my world, because that's his existence. Orcs and humans both hate him. And then if you want to take it a step further upon the lines of the racial stuff, they never relate to each other on that level either. Like, Jacoby he mentions like once or twice, like right in the scene, like where he's like telling him to tell me what really happened. And then also in the gas station scene, he tells him how orcs and humans both hate him. And then Will Smith never mentions like how he believes, how he says like, well, yeah, like he goes, you can't imagine what it's like for your own people to hate you. And then Will Smith could have easily said back, if you wanted to do more character development, like, you could relate on the racial level, like, other humans hate me because I'm black, or like other humans hate black people. You could have gone that route if you wanted to go that route, or you can say how like there's been differences in racial disparity even amongst my own group when like you're lighter skinned, you're less accepted, or you could have gone all those routes. You could have taken a chance to explore any of these things we've just talked about, but they don't.
Yeah, exactly. It's all just lip service in this scene. It's almost a scene where we understand the characters and we get to see what they really care about and why they care about these things. And we're just given kind of a very surface level, just enough to pass the reading of the script to get it into production.
It gives you, these are things that are important, but you don't understand, you never shown or told really why.
Yeah, and so that's kind of the problem with the movie. There's no depth to this film whatsoever. Throughout this whole film, all we have is, by chance, two guys happen to find a wand. By chance, these two guys hate each other. By chance, they're being pursued by some bad guys. You know, everything's just whatever. Who cares? Like, why did this have to happen to them? Why did they care about these things? Their motivations are not well fleshed out, and so why should I care about these characters? I understand that these characters are in peril, but I don't understand why they're in peril. What do these people care? Like, why don't they just leave the wand? Just leave it. Who cares? If I was Wade, and I literally all I cared about was my pension. Oh, Ward. If I was Ward, and all I cared about was my pension, I would just drop it and run, right? And then that's a point of conflict, because maybe Jacoby would stop me. He would say, Ward, you can't just leave this here. I say, why the fuck not? I care about my family. If this is the kind of shit that can get me killed, I'm not going to die over some random magic thing, right? And then they can have like an actual conversation about what is important in life.
Like Jacoby does bring up how dangerous the wand is, and Ward is not happy about the wand being with them, but he never outright like rejects and says they need to leave it somewhere. Which I suppose you could also go the route with, like, it shows that Ward still has a sense of duty to the badge, just beyond it being about money. Like, it's the right thing to do. But once again, that's not talked about that much. But you could go the route as well. Like, he doesn't want to do this because he knows what's better for his family and for him, but he still has a sense of duty as a cop that he used to love, be proud of, that he has that sense of duty, but he doesn't have that anymore. But once again, not explored, not talked about.
Yeah, exactly. So that's all I want to say about the bathroom scene. I don't have anything else to say relating to that scene, so we can just move on. So the next scene is technically Rodriguez shows up and they do some more machismo posturing. What the fuck are you doing shooting some cops? What the fuck are you doing pointing a gun at me? What the fuck are you doing telling me to shut the fuck up? What the fuck are you... Shut the fuck. Great. Nothing is happening in this scene. And then Jacoby says, we have a wand. And then it's going somewhere. Why did I watch 2 minutes of Ward, and Rodriguez?
Willward Ward. Willward Wade. There you go.
Will Ward Wade? Ward Wade Will? Will Ward Wade? Anyway, so Rodriguez...
No, he shows up. Rodriguez doesn't believe him at first. They convince him otherwise. They agree to call the magic feds and tell them, because they think they can get them out of the situation. They sort of tell them where they're at, but then the power gets cut by the Inferni. Then Rodriguez is like, okay, I gotta handcuff you guys, because if they show up, they might kill you guys if you guys are not cuffed. Once again, more racial profiling towards Kobe, but that point is understood at this point. So they handcuff them both. Inferni show up, shoot Rodriguez. So Rodriguez doesn't get to do anything else really in the movie.
Yeah.
He just kind of he's just thrown aside. He has like 2 seconds of yelling, and also
2 minutes.
He's supposed to be like Will's only real friend, and he doesn't even get a chance to really show that he's a friend. But he dies. They throw him aside. The Inferni show up. They plow a car into the gas station. Will Smith gets free. Kobe has to now break loose the handcuffs. They hit him with a car and he survives.
Yeah.
And now this is the point of the movie that like things start to derail a little bit more.
Really? This is the point of the movie where things are derailing.
Everything was fantastic and top notch. But I mean for the action specifically, because at least at this point all the action like when I say action, I don't mean like just the choices of the characters, but just like the actual visual action of the movie has all been pretty good, pretty competent, and makes sense. But at this point, these elves that can kill anything with ease, they can't kill Jacoby. And they can't kill Ward or Tika, and they're all three of them are banged up, beat to hell, bloodied, and just like and barely alive, and they can't manage to even put a scratch in any of them.
Do you know who does manage to get a shot off onto Ward? A random gang member at one point, like 20 minutes before in the movie, randomly glazing shot onto Ward's arm. Random gang member. No one else ever shoots him.
None of these elite elf assassins could touch him.
I remember this scene very clearly because there was a scene where Ward is kind of desperate. He's about to get executed by Lila, whatever, Inferni leader number 74. Inferni leader number 74. He's about to get executed, and Tika. I only remember Tika's name because it's like chicken tikka masala, and that's a little.
That's just the same reason I remember it.
Tika, and I was like, oh, chicken tikka masala. Okay, that helps me remember. Leela, I don't like. There's so many Leela, Lily, whatever names, so it's hard to remember that name. But anyway,
just think chicken Lila masala, and then you have it.
Chicken Lila masala. Okay, great, Lila masala, whatever. Tika kicks a gun to Ward to help him, and then she throws a Clorox bottle, a bottle of like bleach.
I thought that was pretty funny.
At the elf, and it hits the elf in the face. And that buys Ward enough time to recover and shoot back.
See, once again, this is just great world building. Everyone knows that Elf's biggest weakness is a bottle of like Clorox or bleach.
It's not like the bottle. Weakness. It's not like the bottle breaks or anything. It's just like a bottle. Yeah, and it just hits her in the face.
True enough, those things are heavy. Those things will hurt.
Yeah, but
to be fair,
I can't. This is the same elf who.
Oh wait, pause. I don't mean to interrupt you, but just to put a nice sort of like a nice counterexample. So yes, those bottles are heavy. They're filled with a bunch of fluid. If it hits you in the face, it'll hurt. But a few minutes later, an elf, one of those elf assassins, walks out of the gas station on fire very casually, and then casually takes off their coat and throws them to the ground. So when they're literally on fire, not a big deal. When you're struck in the face with a bottle of fluid, devastating. It'll just ruin your day.
It's just ridiculous. We saw 20 minutes ago, or maybe even less than that, maybe 10 minutes ago, how easily these three elves just murdered 20 plus people. Not even looking at them, shooting them in the head, like just bang, 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 all around them.
Heavily armed people.
And now we have a guy who just got hit with a car. This is another thing. Jacoby was hit with a car and then rammed into, multiple times, and rammed into a wall. And it wasn't like just like his lower half that was rammed into the wall. It was like his whole body. He was like laying on the floor and then kind of got run over by a car and then rammed into the wall. If a gunshot is enough to hurt him, how does the car hitting him not kill him? It's mind-boggling.
Once again, because like it's kind of like a sword. Like a sword is effective because all the point of contact is concentrated on just the tip of the sword, very much like a bullet, which is why it's very effective when it goes through you. But a car is really big, so it can't pierce the skin. Yes. But it still hits him, but it won't do as much damage. And that's one of the nerdiest things I've ever said. So I think it's also a crock of shit, but keep going.
The point there is that the amount of energy it takes is all... The energy of that sword, of that bullet, is concentrated, yes? Into that one point.
Yes.
But energy is also equal to the mass times the force, or mass times acceleration, right?
Yes.
The more mass you have and the faster that you're going, the more energy you'll have. I understand that a bullet has a lot of energy because it's going super fast, but it's also very light. It's also small in terms of mass, or low in value in terms of mass. And so that's why you have bigger bullets, right? A big bullet's going to do more damage than a small bullet. A car has a lot of mass.
You wouldn't even have to say anything beyond a car. You could have just said car, and I would have been like, yeah.
How much, like, a typical car weighs maybe 2 tons?
A car will fuck you up, man. My brother was hit by a car. It fucked him up really bad.
And, like, even just going, like, 20 miles an hour. Think about how fast you feel when you're running at 20 miles an hour. If you're running at 20 miles an hour, you're probably, like, already at some of the... You might be at, like, almost an Olympic level, right? Because Usain Bolt is one of the fastest people alive, and he's running at, like, 30 miles an hour. That's, like, his limit. 30 miles an hour. He's basically speeding in a school zone. That's how fast he's running. It's speeding in a school zone. And so if a car is coming at you at 50 miles an hour... and this is like an SUV. This is not just a small car. This is like almost like a truck. This is like maybe 3 or 4 tons, and it's traveling at 40 to 50 miles an hour. The amount of energy in that car, the potential, like the kinetic energy in that car as it's moving, when it hits you, your bones are just shattered instantly. There's no way you're surviving that. So somehow this bullet, I understand bullets are incredibly powerful. I get that, but like. What? How is he surviving the car? But then he doesn't survive the bullet. I just don't get it. And he's. It's not just that he survives. It's that he's so okay. Because it's not as if he's like injured. He just gets up and he's literally like moving stuff around. He's helping Ward. He's okay enough to help Ward get out of a situation by like pushing stuff around and getting Ward unstuck. Ward is like the force of I think it's like a grocery rack or something. Like a grocery rack falls on Ward, and that has enough force to hurt Ward and pin him. But the car hitting Jacoby, he's fine. He's fine. The grocery rack, that's dangerous. But the car, whatever.
It also calls into question how orcs just in the society in that day and age are able to be captured and detained so easily by police, seemingly through just normal means. Like normal police officers like wrestle to the ground or like beat them up and stuff. So it doesn't seem very. You can make the argument. Well, he's an orc. He has like tougher skin or like his muscles are hard or whatever. But it leads to a bunch of other implications and questions that wouldn't add up at the same time. But. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. They're hit with cars. They're blown up. They're shot at. They don't shoot any of them. They just throw bottles at them and run away, and they escape.
They do kind of shoot at them, but they keep missing. Everyone is missing in this fight. Suddenly, all of their Ward, who dropped 4
Ward, ace marksman and cop with street cred, can't shoot shit in this scene. None of the Inferni hit any of them. Aside the guy with the car is most successful. The elf with the car is the most successful, but no one else hits shit.
Do you know who does land a shot? Tika with the Clorox bottle. That is the cleanest shot that has landed.
No, I know a real shot. Rodriguez gets shot and dies.
Oh, that's true.
You don't see who shoots him. For all we know, it could have just been some random person walking by, but he gets shot. But no one else does.
Yeah, but why do they shoot Rodriguez? Why didn't they shoot Ward or Jacoby?
I never gave that much thought, but now that I think about it, it's just because, as my father would say, it's because that's what the script said.
So, this scene is difficult for me to watch, and this is probably where I start to lose the movie, or I lose interest in the movie. It's where my interest in the movie is really starting to drop.
Well, this is where it really, because up until this point, I can say at least.
Whoa, that was a lot. Orcs, Dark Lords, Ancient Prophecies, the LAPD, and you know what? There's still so much more to come. I know, it's hard to believe, but this was a long talk Darren and I had, and we just wanted to keep it all digestible. So if you like what you heard and want to hear more, check out part 3 of our Bright Deep Dive series. It should start right after this, or perhaps there's a pop-up link on screen somewhere by now, if you're catching this on YouTube, of course. But regardless, thank you very much for listening, and me and Darren hope you'll be back soon for another thrilling episode of Rice and Spice. Take care.